Hey everybody, Mr. Cause here with another question, and I've got another suggestion/answer. So here we go. How do you tell your parents that the way they speak to you and treat you makes you feel uncomfortable? Well, thank you very much from the teenager that sent in this question. Now, before I answer this question, let me give you a little bit of information about a specific part of this question that I think is important for me to point out. In the question, it says, how do you tell your parent that the way they speak to you and treat you makes you feel uncomfortable? Now, that's a very important word because uncomfortable can mean a whole lot of things. I'm going to answer this question assuming that this teenager is not unsafe, they're not being beaten or abused by their parent, because uncomfortable to me sounds like they don't like the way that their parent is talking to them. Maybe their parent is being sarcastic, joking around with them, being mean to them, belittling them, or talking down to them. That's what I'm assuming this question is coming from. So the first thing I'm going to want you to do is a two-part answer. I want you to find a way to get your parent away from your siblings, away from everyone else, and talk to them alone. Also, you got to time this when your parent is in a good mood, and definitely when there hasn't been an argument or a confrontation between the two of you within a couple hours. So make sure that you get them alone, and also make sure that they're chill, they're mellow, maybe they're laughing, joking around, maybe they just got off a phone call with one of their friends or their favorite sports team just won a game. Catch them in the right window of opportunity when they got a good vibe going on and no one else is around. Second, when you do approach your parent, I want you to tell them that you had an epiphany.
What's an epiphany?
Sudden realization of great truth.
Okay.
Now, what I mean by an epiphany, you realize something that you did not realize before. And what you realized is that one thing that they complained to you about, they're actually right. Here's what I mean by this. Recently, I talked to a teenager, and this teenager told me that his dad is much like this parent in this question, making him feel uncomfortable, talking down to him, belittling him. And the dad always brings up something about respect and about appreciation and gratitude. So the dad's always complaining to this teenager that this teenager and the other siblings are not grateful and do not say thank you and go on in long description about all the things they're blessed with and all the things that they're happy that this father gets them. So what I want you to do is I want you to do the exact same thing that I suggested that this young man do. I suggested that he goes to his dad and he tell his dad, "Dad, I just learned something." And the dad said, "Okay, what'd you just learn?" The teenager took his time. He said, "Well, I'm kind of embarrassed to say it to you because turns out you've been telling me to do this all along and I just didn't think it was that big of a deal, but now I realize it's a huge deal." So then, as you can imagine, this teenager got his dad's attention. Now the dad's looking at him going, "So what is this thing?" He goes, "Well, I was in class, and while I was in class, my teacher was talking about how sometimes we are thankful and grateful for our parents and our family members, we just don't say it out loud. And if we don't say it out loud, our parents, all their hard work, all the things that they're doing, our parents are going to get frustrated, or parents can get frustrated and feel as if everything that they're doing isn't being acknowledged, isn't being appreciated. So at that point, parents start to feel, why am I doing this for everybody? Why am I working so hard if nobody cares?" Now in class, he told his parent that the teacher talked about, by the way, the teacher was me. The teacher talked about, hey, if you're able to tell your parents that they are right, that you should be more grateful and you're going to work on that from now on, not only do you just have their attention, you have their respect because you came to this on your own and you're sharing it with them. Now, the next thing that you want to do is you want to take this very warm situation. Your parent is on your side. You said something that makes them feel right and you're agreeing with them. And if you're being agreeable or if you're telling someone something that they already think, they're most likely going to be happy with you. Now, this is the particular moment that's best to bring up to your parent that you could benefit from them talking to you in a whole different way. So the trick to this is right when you get done telling them something that you realize you can work on and do better, you also share with them you learned something else. And what you learn is parents do something in reaction to when teenagers and kids aren't appreciative of them or grateful for all the things that they've given them. Parents do something in reaction to teenagers that makes teenagers not feel very good. In fact, even uncomfortable sometimes. And what parents tend to do is parents hold grudges and resentment. Parents will sit back and say, okay, if my kids aren't appreciative, if they're not grateful, if they're not thankful, well, then I'm going to talk down to them, meaning not like they're an equal, but talk down to them, get angry with them, or at least quick to anger with them, use a lot of negative, sarcastic remarks to joke with them, but secretly it's not a joke. It's actually kind of passive aggressive and makes the teenager feel bad about themselves. These are some of the things that parents do when they get resentful and they feel like they're not being appreciated. So at this particular moment, this is when the teenager, you, tells your parent, listen, I realize that when parents do this to their teenagers, they don't mean to make it personal. They don't mean to hurt their teenagers' feelings. But as I started to think about what my teacher was saying, I recognize that I take it personal. I get frustrated and I think like you hate me or you don't like me, but it sounds like you actually are just frustrated with me. So I figured out something, and my teacher said something that we could do that'd be a whole lot better. You could actually just tell me before you're about to criticize me, hey, listen, I still love you and you still need to do your homework. Or, hey, I'm not mad at you, I just don't like your performance. Something that makes it feel that you're identifying that this is something that you want me to change instead of I'm not good enough or I'm the problem. So in review, first off, you gotta make sure that you isolate your parent away from everyone else in the family. There's no other distractions, and you catch your parent when they're in a good mood. If they just ate their favorite meal, their team won, the game, whatever it may be, time it so that you have all those things going for you. Good mood and no one else is around. Number 2, pretend that, and by the way, you have my permission to do a little bit of what I call a try. You're using some truth, but you're going to bend the truth a little bit just to make a point, because the goal of this is to talk to your parent in a way that they're going to listen. So if you got to bend the rules a little bit and lie just a little bit, it's all for a good cause. The benefit of a child-parent relationship. So I'm giving you permission to lie just a little bit. So this part, you tell your parent you learned something at school, you watched something on YouTube, or you heard someone talking and it made you think of all the things that they've been trying to teach you and how they're actually right, and then give a little detail about how they're right. The example that I use in this video is talking about a parent that feels like their teenager is not grateful. Well, then give a few moments of like, man, you realize that you should be more grateful, because if you're more grateful to your parent, then they're going to be more relaxed, they're going to be more chill, more at ease, and they're going to handle the bad news or the mistakes or whatever frustrations you normally give them, they're going to handle it a lot better. So the trick to all this in this particular step is you got to take whatever your parent has been saying to you that they're frustrated with you about, you got to flip that around and say, you know what, it actually makes some sense. You know, I realize that if I did more of that, you'd be in a better mood. If you're in a better mood, we probably wouldn't fight so much, or you wouldn't be so angry at me. By the way, no parent is going to disagree or argue with that. It's impossible. What are they supposed to say? I don't like it that you're being agreeable with me and that you agree with me. I think you should stop that right now. No, they're not going to say that. So this is why it's okay to bend the truth just a little bit to make this point. Now, the last step, make sure that after you get everything all warm by telling your parents that they're right, because parents love to be right, after you tell them that, you tell them that you also realize something about yourself. Maybe you could just simply say, I realize that, sometimes I get sensitive. Sometimes I get defensive. Sometimes I don't tell the truth. Sometimes I avoid responsibility and don't want to be held accountable because I'm scared I'm going to get in trouble. Whatever it may be, you tell them that these are things that you realize, you understand that you do, and that there's something that they could do to help you so that you're less likely to go to those old habits and those old ways. Instead, you're going to tell them when they give you advice, when they give you criticism, if they could just simply add in a little less personal effect. So it works like this. Tell your parents, could you do me a favor? Because I'm so sensitive, and if your parents say you're sensitive or you take things too personal, play up to it. You're not going to disagree with them. You're going to actually agree with them to help get your point across. Tell them, you say I'm sensitive a lot of the time. Well, I found out it's true. I do get sensitive. And there's something really simple that you could do to help me out so I'm not getting so sensitive all the time. You could actually tell me when you give me advice that what you're telling me is something you want me to do and it's not personal. So for example, you could tell your parent, hey, listen, come at me like this. You made a mistake. You didn't do your homework on time. Now you got a bad grade at that class. Now I want you to make up for that mistake. Instead of just focusing on why did you make the mistake? Why did you do this? Why did you do that? Just tell your parents, say, listen, if you just make a simple statement like, looks like you got some serious makeup work to do. Looks like you got some serious consequences coming. Just make a statement so it's not so personal. That is the number one thing that a parent can do to help make you feel more comfortable. Because from the teenagers that I talk to, when they hit them with a bunch of questions and always questioning them, they feel like the parent is questioning their intentions, their desires. You can actually really want to get a good grade and still somehow screw it up and get a bad grade. So these 3 steps will help you have a conversation with your parent so that they can be treating you and talking to you in a different way so that you feel more comfortable. So give these steps a shot. If you want to be able to talk to that parent that makes you feel uncomfortable by the way they talk to you and treat you, start with these steps to help you build that relationship so that you could then give them advice how to talk to you differently. But you got to have realistic expectation, guys. If some of you have parents that are really stubborn, really hard-nosed, still do this, but have realistic expectations. Your parent may respond a little bit how you'd like them to respond, but this may take a little bit of time. The teenagers that have done this, they said after they've done it 3 or 4 times, go to their parent and say, hey, you know what? I realized something about myself. Hey, you know what? I learned something. You're teaching your parent over time that there's a different way that they could talk to you that would actually get better responses from you and better results. Now, when your parent does talk to you differently, if they do use your suggestions and try to make things less personal, then you got to make sure that you identify that and thank them for that. If your parents know that it's effective and you're giving them a compliment for doing it, they're going to keep on doing it because every parent wants to be a good parent. Hey guys, thanks for checking out my video. And if you liked it and it gave you some interesting ideas about how to deal with the drama in your life, like, subscribe, share, shoot, you know what to do. And if you want to raise your hand to ask the teacher a question, simply put your question in the comment box. Thanks for watching, Mr. Cos.